We interrupt the regularly scheduled mass programming feeds. Watchmen bring this announcement to the earth. A famine of the word of YaHuWaH is found on the earth. Plagues are poured out in judgment. Important words of the Creator YaHuWaH have been dismissed. Without the word, people are not living abundantly. My people perish for lack of knowledge. There is a city whose builder is YaHuWaH Aloha. There is healing for the nations. A light unto the Gentiles, restore all truth. Join us as we share from the word of YaHuWaH.
I think, didn't they pursue them not on the same day, but some days later? That's what I have in my mind. I also have in my mind that they had a place where they all came together. Dollar might know, but what the city was right after the border, they came all together in one city, and because they have not been all in one place, they had to be gathered from all over Egypt, or not all over Egypt, but from Goshen, and Goshen is not just like one city where they can talk to each other and say, "Well, we are going." So
yeah, I read that city that they went to was like that Moses had been there before as like a soldier training an army, that was the place that the army, that was like an army center.
correct.
And he knew that place, so they went there. And something's telling me that was a horses storage place for Solomon, that same city. Solomon used that to store his army horses. Anyway, I think it was some kind of army city that Moses already knew about. I don't know where I read that.
Is that the place called Pi Hahiroth where they gathered just before they went through the sea?
No, this was another city.
Right, yeah, right after the. I have something with E in my mind, like Emra or Ezra or.
Yeah,
Need to look.
it was someplace like to the north. It was an army.
Yeah.
What it was an army post. It was a lookout, like, you know, so nobody could get into the city. It was their lookout post, guarding Egypt, guarding the city. That's what I think, and I think he knew that already. That was an army training base that he knew, but I don't know where I read that. So anyway, maybe they celebrated a Shabbat there at dawn.
There's a couple of different studies, and Troy Miller does one in his he kind of takes us through the time and the scriptures on this Exodus as he's counting to the Feast of Weeks. And that's why I know these scriptures from Deuteronomy 16 that says they left at night, because I learned it from Troy Miller's study on when is the scriptural Feast of Weeks.
So what night do you think they left?
I think they left on the 15th. And I think we could review Exodus 12 again and see.
Also the book of Jasher speaks about it from chapter 80.
Does it say the 15th? They left the night of the 15th?
I'm still reading, Terry.
Thank you, Teza.
Yeah. It just seems like they would say, get out now. Get out now. You know, if the destroyer went by at midnight, then Pharaoh probably called them in, you know, like 1 or 2 in the morning.
That's why I was saying, Terry, when I read through Exodus 12 a couple of years ago, maybe up to 4 years ago, I was seeing like the 14th we're supposed to keep and the 15th we observe. Like I saw 2 days there. I don't know if it's because I had a presupposition in my mind.
Oh, and then YaHuWaH, from what didn't celebrate it on that night. So you've got 3 nights there. I mean, the way I understand it is he didn't celebrate Passover on Passover because he was Passover.
Exactly. And not only that, Terry, that brings up another point that you just made me think about, is that in the story of Esther, it wasn't just the 15th, the Shabbat of Remembrance. It wasn't just the 14th, but of course it started on the 13th, and then the 14th was added. Some observed the 14th and the 15th after the 13th of the killings, and others, those that were right there in Shushan, I think it was, they killed the 13th and the 14th and observed the Shabbat of Remembrance on the 15th. They had 2 days of killing. So that again is that 13, 14, 15. Oh.
Can I ask if there was 3 days of darkness?
It's funny because in this Egyptian accounting that we're going to read, it says there are 9 days. The Egyptians said there were 9 days of darkness. But, we got to go by scripture. I don't know. I think there were 3 days of darkness because there were 3 hours of darkness for Yahushua on the cross. I think there were 3 days of gross darkness, is what Josephus describes it as. Is that what y'all think?
Wow, I'd love to see what Josephus said. I don't know what he said.
What I remember is 3 days of gross, heavy darkness is the way he described it.
I pretty much remember that from scripture, which may be where, of course, Josephus is getting it, but also from the Jewish sages as well, what they would say.
I never thought of that, but yeah, that was one of the plague. That was the last plague, wasn't it?
It was the last one before the first
3
first
days of
one.
darkness. Yeah. So they would have been in darkness even in the daytime.
Yeah, the Kolbrin, which we may read today or we may not, but from the Egyptian perspective, it was the destroyer that was coming by that caused all of this.
Yeah.
It talks about all the plagues and the God of the slaves. He won, he won.
So the 3 days of dark.
You broke up, Teza, or I broke up, one of the two.
Night.
I thought there were 3 days of darkness because that's how it's going to be in the final days. In time days, we're going to have 3 days of darkness. It repeats the Egyptian plagues. That's just
Yeah, I think we will see those plagues again.
It says that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means the destroyer is going to pass again, according to the Egyptian accounting
But
of.
is that on the same night, Terri? That's my question. Is it on the same night? Hi, Vicky. Hi, Sandra. Shabbat shalom.
It sounds.
Well, if it was 3 days of darkness, and it was right before the angel of death or the destroyer came through, then there could have still been 2 days of darkness.
Yeah, because that would mean they'd be leaving. Well, there wouldn't be light. If it was dark, it was dark. So there'd be no light of the moon.
That was in Egypt. That was in Mitzrayim itself and Patros. It wasn't in Goshen.
Right. That was supernatural. Had to be if this was a destroyer planet passing over.
Let's just review. Let's start at like 10. Exodus 10.
And Darla, if you also go to the book of Jasher.
Yeah.
Chapter 80, and read through that as well. You've got that link, haven't you? And Leah, did you end up getting that link I sent you about Monty Judah? It's in the first couple. It's in the first with around the 45 second mark when he talks about the Sabbath, the Feast of Weeks. It's not the same.
What Monty Judah did?
Yeah, one of his.
Yeah, but he's on a different clock than us. So
Yeah, I understand that. If you just listen to the first first minute of that, it'll explain what he ends up saying. Or should I send it to you,
about the
Darla?
Feast of Weeks. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think I got it. You didn't send it to me, I don't think.
In private chat.
Did you? Let me go look. But yeah, do you guys want, I'll read the Jasher part if you want out of my stuff first.
Judaism observes a day always make it the 16th of Nisan, right? They make it after the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. However, according to Moses, it's always going to be on the first day of the week, and it's always going to be following the weekly Sabbath.
Did you hear
It
that?
always is that way. Yes, it always is that way.
It. That's it. But he says that Brother Judah doesn't do that.
After the Passover. That's the reason why during the counting of the Omer, we count 7 Sabbaths and on them.
Okay. Do you want me to send that one to you, Darla?
Honestly, sister, I probably won't find time to
No,
listen
that's
to it.
okay. It goes for 6 minutes. It's in that. That's in that very first minute.
If it's just 6 minutes, I can handle 6 minutes. And if anybody's like, no, you have to watch this, then I will have to watch it. Just let me know. You know, like I'm so overwhelmed and drowning in my, stuff.
I'll just send it to you. And do you want me to
Thank
just put
you,
it in?
Tessa. Yeah, I had watched that one yesterday or the day before, I think it was.
So did you listen to that first minute?
Yeah.
Of it?
Yeah.
Do you want me to just put it in chat, Darla, or do you want me to send it to you?
No, you can put it wherever you want, sister. Like I'm breathing. That's about where I'm at today. Just
That's about it. I'm hearing you, sister.
yeah, I
really
know.
am.
Yeah, we're all, I'm wiped out. I'm gonna have to go at 3.
Yeah, we want to get to what you have to share too.
We don't have to. We can do it another
I want
time.
to. I mean, it's timely.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Now, I wanted to say, Terri, I'm just trying to look back to the darkness one and see what the Pharaoh said. But what I'm noticing is with every single plague, he's like, go, just get out, go. But don't take the such and such.
Right.
Don't take the animals, So that's eventually you was like, no, you got to let them all go. You got to cut that umbilical cord. So now, because we were talking about, was it still dark? So I want to see, did he ask Moshe to take that one away? Because if he did, it would have turned to light again.
You mean
the 3 days of darkness?
Did he ask? I think a couple of times he said, "Go, but pray for me."
Exactly. But what happened after the darkness? Or is it still dark? That's
I think he was like, "Go," and then he hardened his heart again. But I don't know. Let's see. Where is
chapter 10?
My opinion is, I think that the darkness had ended, and he then hardened his heart again. So that's why the last plague was killing all the firstborns.
Okay, it says, and YaHuWaH said to Moshe, let's go up. I'll be with you. And Moshe said, we are going with our young and our old, with our sons and daughters, with our flocks and our herds, we are going, for we have a festival to YaHuWaH. And he said to them, let YaHuWaH be with you as I let you and your little ones go. Watch, for evil is before your face. Not so. Huh?
Where are you reading?
10:10.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Let YaHuWaH be with you as I let you and your little ones. So he's saying, let YaHuWaH be with you as I let you and your little ones go. But he didn't say the flocks. Watch, for evil is before your face. Not so, you men go now and serve YaHuWaH, for that is what you desired. And they were driven out from the presence of Pharaoh. So that would be Moses and Neharon. And YaHuWaH said to Moshe, stretch out your hand over the land of Mitzrayim, for these are about the locusts, for the locusts to come upon the land of Mitzrayim and eat every plant of the land. All that the hail, so the hail came before that, has left. Moshe stretched out his rod over the land of Mitzrayim, and YaHuWaH brought an east wind to the land all that day and all that night. Morning came, the east wind brought the east, and the east wind brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Mitzrayim and settled within the borders of Mitzrayim, very grievous. There had never been locusts like them before, nor would there be like them again. And they covered the surface of the land so that the land was darkened. And they ate every plant of the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left. And no greenness was left on the tree or on the plants of the field in all of Mitzrayim. Pharaoh then called for Moses, Moshe, and Aaron in haste. So this is after the locust, and it was dark after the locust. He called for them in haste and said, it's big. I have sinned against YaHuWaH, your Elohim, and against you. And now please bear my sin only this once, and pray to YaHuWaH, your Elohim, that he would only turn away this death from me. And he went out from Pharaoh and prayed to YaHuWaH. And YaHuWaH turned a very strong west wind, which took the locusts away and blew them into the sea of reeds. Not one locust was left within all the border of Mitzrayim. However, YaHuWaH hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not let the children of Israel go. And YaHuWaH said to Moshe, stretch out your hand toward the Shamayim, and let there be darkness over the land of Mitzrayim, even a darkness which is felt. And Moshe stretched out his hand toward the Shamayim, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Mitzrayim for 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. For all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called to Moshe and said, go, serve YaHuWaH. Only leave your flocks and your herds behind you. Let your little ones go with you too. I love this part. But Moshe said, you yourself are to provide us with slaughterings and burnt offerings to prepare for YaHuWaH our Elohim. You yourself, or is he saying that he's expecting Pharaoh to give them the livestock for slaughtering? Yes. Ha, that's bold, isn't it? And our livestock are to go with us too also. So he is asking Pharaoh, you're going to provide what we're going to slaughter. Not a hoof is to be left behind, for we have to take some of them to serve YaHuWaH our Elohim, and we ourselves do not know, they didn't even know what we are to serve YaHuWaH until we come there. However, YaHuWaH hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said to him, get away from me, watch yourself and see my face no more, for in the day you see my face, you die. And Moshe said, you have spoken rightly. Never again do I see your face. So that must mean that the 3 days of darkness passed. Yeah, because nobody stood up or nobody. So that was 3 days.
Yeah.
You want me to go on?
Yes, please.
Okay, and YaHuWaH said to Moshe, I am bringing yet one more plague on Pharaoh and on Mitzrayim here. No, Mitzrayim. After that, he is going to let you go from here. When he lets you go, he shall drive you out from here altogether. That sounds impulsive, not like wait till the morning. He will drive you out. That means get out now. Speak now in the hearing. That's just my what I'm hearing. Now speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor and every woman from her neighbor objects of silver and objects of gold. So was it still dark here from the 3 days of darkness?
Well, like you said, Terry, the 3 days, it wasn't like 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know. Maybe it seems like the 3 days were over.
Yeah, so the 3 days are over. Yet one more plague.
How do you ask your Egyptian neighbors for their gold and silver in pitch black darkness?
Only if they're really mad and scared.
Yeah.
You know?
But didn't YaHuWaH put it on their hearts to give it to them?
But this says, speak now in the hearing of the people.
Yeah,
well, it's almost like Pharaoh is saying that. And YaHuWaH said to Moshe, I am bringing yet one more plague on Pharaoh and on Mitzrayim. After that, he is going to let you go. So this is the Father, let you go from here. When he lets you go, he shall drive you out from here altogether. Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man, this is YaHuWaH speaking, speak now in the hearing of the people. So he's telling Moshe to say this. Let every man ask from his neighbor and every woman from her neighbor objects of silver and objects of gold. And YaHuWaH gave the people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites, and the man Moshe was very great, so they respected him in the land of Mitzrayim, in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants, and in the eyes of the people. And Moshe said, thus says YaHuWaH, about midnight, I've always thought that was so interesting, about midnight, with such an exact Father we serve, about midnight, not at midnight, it's about midnight. I'm going out into the midst of Mitzrayim, and all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of cattle. There shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Mitzrayim, such has never been or ever will be again. But against any of the children of Israel, no dog shall move its tongue against man or against beast, so that you will know that YaHuWaH makes distinction between Mitzrayim and Israel. And all these servants of yours shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, you and all the people at your feet. And after that, I shall go out. After that, I shall go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great displeasure. Okay, but YaHuWaH said to Moshe, Pharaoh is not going to listen to you in order to multiply my wonders in the land of Mitzrayim. And Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh. However, YaHuWaH hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. You want me to go on?
Yeah.
Okay. And YaHuWaH spoke to Moshe and Aaron. This is verse 1, chapter 12, if anybody wants to follow. Yeah. And YaHuWaH spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month. So he's starting to keep a calendar here, his calendar.
Yes, you're right. You're very right about that.
So he's starting, yeah, there's got to be a 15th day in here. So this month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first.
Terri, what verse are you up to? Sorry, love.
I'm 12:2, and this is in Hallelujah Scriptures.
Thank you.
So yeah, he's initiating a calendar here.
Right, you're so right.
Yeah, Okay. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings. What a sweet father, he wants everybody to have some. According to each man's need, you are to make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. This is confusing too, right here. Take it from the sheep or from the goats. Isn't there a difference between sheep and goats?
They're both kosher meats. That's the important part, I think. They're both kosher meats. One of them is not clean and the other unclean. They're both kosher meat.
Yeah, but separate the goats from the sheep. That just has a bad connotation to me. I don't understand that. Let the lamb, if it's a sheep, take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. He's teaching them here. Yeah. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. Okay. Between the evenings. So that would be between the evenings of the 14th and the evening of the 15th. Is that right? Between the evenings.
I don't think that that's right. My understanding of is that, so evening is as soon as the sun sets, and it goes until it's dark.
Oh, okay. Shall kill it between the evenings
of the 13th and 14th, I've always thought.
That's what it's kind of sounding like that to me too, because
but it says we keep it until the 14th.
Yeah.
You can't keep it at the 14th and then kill it on the 13th.
Between the evenings, though.
Between the evenings, so you're talking about between evening and dark.
That's how I understand it. Any of that shadow time, which is a mixture. It's a mixture between light and dark. So I'm taking it all as on the day of the 14th, between the evenings, that time frame between the sun going down and dark.
But it's plural, Darla.
Yeah.
It's plural.
That's how I see it, though. There's a mixture. There's at the beginning when the sun goes down, there's more light. And when right before dark, there's more darkness, but there's still light. So I'm just seeing that as a word that reflects to one day, but different shades of that mixture of light and dark.
Yeah. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts. Now somewhere it says strike the doorpost instead of put it on there. So do y'all see a difference between strike and put it on the 2 doorposts? Strike or put it. Strike almost seems like it's got a, I don't know. Put it seems pretty gentle. Strike it seems different to me.
Yeah, maybe it's a matter of translation from the Hebrew meaning.
I think it kind of means two different things. I don't know. Put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. They shall eat it. So really, it's only saying 3 things here that you're supposed to eat. Yeah. Right? The lamb, unleavened bread, and the bitter herbs. It's really something how traditions of man have put so many things in there, isn't it? Eggs and, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it's kind of like, Terri, if you decided you're going to do this tradition of having, fish with the walls of water, I don't think all traditions are bad. They're just, it could be like, 50 years from now, it could be like, well, that's how Grandma Terri did it. And that's just how we do it. And we love it. And it engages the children. And so the traditions aren't, we put ribbons around instead of blood, of course. Not all traditions are bad. They just, they need to be examined. I don't use the egg.
I brought that question up and left it in the comments in one of Monty Judah's videos, and he addressed it in the latest one that he put out. And he says the same thing. Not all traditions are bad, because that's what I said. I don't want to do anything that's not biblical. And he pointed out how each one of those traditions that the Jews do all point to the Messiah. When he goes through them, it's like, how could they not see? Like every little thing that they do, all of it points to him, like this putting the stone over the matzah and hiding it, and then rolling back to somebody. One of the kids goes and finds it, and they pull away the stone, and they call it that. Like it's all about the Messiah. And it's like when he went through it, I went, there's nothing there that's not to do with the Messiah. It all does. So
Okay.
I didn't see anything wrong with doing any of the traditions that they do, because they all point to him.
Okay.
The one my kids don't like, Terri, is and this was our first year of Passover. My oldest son, he must have been about 17 at the time. I don't know what he was. I don't know, maybe 19 or something. And there's setting a place setting for Elijah, and inviting Elijah to come in. And my son's like, wait, we gave up Santa and the cookies and the milk, but now we got Elijah and the glass of wine. And so I was like, yep, we're getting rid of that one right now. That one didn't work for us. And I don't do the egg.
But what if he comes back as one of the witnesses?
Well, either way, I mean, I see the spirit of Eliyahu means YaHuWaH is my Elohim. That's how I understand Elijah coming back. Eliyahu, the spirit of Eliyahu, YaHuWaH is my El. We're already there. The other one we don't do is we don't do an egg. There's an egg on the Seder plate. We don't do that. It's a little too close to the whole
Easter
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it, and they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread with bitter herbs. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head and its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave of it until morning. So that means there's going to be a morning. Don't leave it till the morning. That means there's going to be a morning.
You're right.
Okay, so don't leave of it until morning, and what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. So, if it's morning and they're burning with fire, they're working.
Unless they have some sort of fire that they have kept going all night.
I don't know.
They had to roast the lamb anyway, so
yeah, they would have had a fire the night before anyway. There might have been something to stoke up. I don't know. They could have had some wood standing by right there that's not technically worked. Just, put the wood on and it catches on fire again.
But that kind of is a big point right there. They were still there in the morning after the Passover.
Well,
right.
you could see it like this, but I see it, it's a commandment to not leave anything. So that is the first information. Do not leave anything. Yeah. And if there is something, then you have to burn it.
Right. But that's kind of assuming that they're going to be there.
They're going to be there in the morning to burn it up. Yes, exactly. Great point, Terri.
Okay. It's everybody here, y'all. We've got our head on this. And this is how you are to eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Pesach of YaHuWaH. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night. and shall smite all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both
There's your
man
covenant.
and beast, and
There's-
on all the mighty ones. That makes me think they're little g. What they, if they had mighty men, mighty men, these are the, mighty,
So they're
all the
deities.
might, if they had Nephilim, or if they had whatever, all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim, the rulers, or the,
And Terry, if you also look at that, they used to idolize cattle as well.
that's right. That's why he said cattle specifically. Wow.
That's right.
Yeah, I said cattle specifically. Okay, I shall execute judgment. I am YaHuWaH. Love that.
Did
And-
anyone see? Did everyone see that that's the covenant that he's made? Because when YaHuWaH ever made a covenant, something had to die. Is that right, Darla? Whenever
Well, I
covenant-
mean, there's a salt covenant. I don't think anything dies with the salt, but there's salt with every animal sacrifice. That's sort of interesting. But there's definitely cutting the covenant, which he did with Abraham. And, and it's like the two parties of the covenant, which wasn't even Abraham, it was YaHuWaH and YaHuWaH, because Abraham was asleep, so his descendant shows up, YaHuWaH, out of their lineage, Abraham's lineage, and that's who the covenant's with. And it's like cutting the covenant is like the animals are cut in two. It's like saying, may what happened to these animals happen to me if I break this covenant.
When you're talking about Isaac, there was a ram that was slayed, though.
Yeah, you're right.
There was a lamb, what?
The ram that was caught in the thicket.
Yeah. Yeah. I just posted something about that with Isaac. Did y'all see that? That was so cool. Did y'all see that?
I don't think I saw it, Terry.
I haven't seen it yet. Sister.
If you think about Isaac going up the mountain, he's carrying the sacrificial wood. He's carrying the wood on his shoulder. Going up with he's carrying the cross. It's a parallel. He's carrying, see, and he's going up so his father can sacrifice him. So,
and that's to the same spot, isn't it, too, Terry?
Sorry?
Was that to the same spot that?
I don't know. It said Mount Moriah. I don't know.
I heard it was. I saw somebody's video. I don't know if it's somebody shared here. Somebody's seen it, I'm sure. I don't even know if it ended up on our channel or what, but the person that was talking in the video was saying that Abraham saw the skull, Golgotha.
Yeah.
And that's the one I've seen too.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very deep. That's deep.
Very.
Isn't that cool though? That he was carrying his cross. Isaac was
to
carrying
Golgotha.
To Golgotha. Wow.
That's huge.
It's huge.
That's
he could see it from far away, so that's where he went to.
Yeah, that's very cool. So we've got Adam, we've got Goliath buried there with his head and his sword, and YaHuWaH dying there, Isaac being sacrificed there, and it's still there.
Darla, do you remember if that was the place the garden was? Is that? I'm just thinking about when it was in that what we're listening to. I'm rambling. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I can't remember where it was.
Yeah. It was so interesting.
I think it was something about a garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I've read somewhere is that was the center of the earth. That was the center, and when the Father picked up the dust to make Adam, he made him from the center of the earth. And I don't know where I read this either, but the post, it's still there. where they beat him, with the whip, that post is still there. And that marks the spot where the Father scooped up the dirt to make Adam, and then it said he placed him in the garden.
Wow.
Like he moved him from that spot. But I don't know if that's true, but there's a post right there in Jerusalem, and they say this is where the Father took the clay, to make, this is where the Father made up from the very center. That's always been
interesting to know if that's where
it would be
Yahushua was.
interesting. You just don't know there if all this, there's a very big Catholic, they own most of the land in Israel. So you don't know. You don't know if it's the real site or not. Okay. So
So Terri,
well,
if we go to the Hebrew, I do have my Hebrew. I'm looking at my large script on the Holy Scriptures right now. Do you have the Hebrew one in front of you, Terri? Is it a Hebrew English? Your Holy Scriptures? Okay. So if we look at the Hebrew, and I can grab mine real quick, in verse 12, where it talks about the mighty ones, if that's Elohim Akarim, those are not humans. That translates to the other latter-day mighty ones. Elohim Akarim. They are not humans.
So from Anak, which Anak are Amalekites ultimately.
No, it's
What verse was that,
Akarim.
Darla?
Let me just pull it up on the Hebrew here. It's Exodus 12, verse 12.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting number, of course.
It says the mighty ones and all the mighty ones. So he's making a differentiation here between, it looks like the men and women of Mitzrayim and
You want me to grab mine?
all the mighty ones. So
I've got mine. Let's see what it says here. I don't know. We might have to pull it up on Bible Hub, but I see Mitzrayim.
I can pull it up in interlinear. Want me to?
Yeah, you want to? You want to share screen or?
Sure.
It would be interesting to look at it because I also see the word Me'adam, which sort of looks like from Adam, right?
Yeah.
That's right after Mitzrayim. So I'd be interested to see what that word is translating over to.
Or Exodus 12:12.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got against all the gods of Egypt. In the land of the firstborn, I will smite in this night, the land, and I will pass judgment on the beast. 12:12. Does it go on to 12:13?
So they've got Elohe. And then it's interesting in the Holy Scriptures, I'm seeing right after the word Mitzrayim. Am I in 12 still? Right after Mitzrayim in the Holy Scriptures is Me'adam. I don't see it here.
Well, look here. Here it is. So it's saying from human.
Okay,
so from human. So he's making a distinction here. He's going to kill the firstborn humans, and he's going to kill.
Yeah.
He's going to kill. Does it say he's going to kill?
Oh, there it is. Both man and beast.
He's going to kill all the mighty ones, where in Egypt he only killed the firstborn, but he's going to kill all of these other, whatever they are, that are not human. Are you getting that?
Yeah, it says that against all
So
the little
so here's human firstborns, and then are y'all getting that the other one here says beast? Well, he's going to kill the firstborn of the beast. But right here, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night and will smite all the firstborns in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. So in Hallelujah, all the mighty ones, are they human? Unto
I think it's making a distinction between human and non-human.
I do too.
Yeah.
Because it says he's going to kill all of them, where he's only killing the firstborn of the Egyptians.
So they used to have the cattle that was the Hayard, Isis, Nut, and Bat. They were cow goddesses.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
were depicted with the horns of the cows or with the ears of the cows.
Which tells you when they went out to kill the Hebrews, all their gods were dead already. Whoever they were claiming was a god, a mighty one, they're gone.
It was explained to me why the cattle, they wouldn't stay in Mitzrayim to do the sacrifices, because if they were to start slaughtering the cattle, the Egyptians would have started slaughtering them, because that was their little g gods.
And isn't that something? As soon as they get to the base of the mountain, they make one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
I did find out what was wrong with the what the discrepancy was here on this particular interlinear scripture analyzer. They're doing their Hebrew words from the letters are right to left, but the words are left to right. So after Mitzrayim in the top green line there, Egypt, the next word over is Me'adam. There you go, right there. So
right, yeah, right here.
The words are in backwards, kind of like William Sanford did.
Right. Sometimes it's kind of hard to read this.
Yeah.
But so from humans, so there's a distinction. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think this is the deities of Egypt. He is attacking after the humans and the firstborn. You know, and of course he says, I pass in the land at the very beginning. That's our Passover word right there. Ayin Bet Resh.
And then it follows with, wait a minute. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night, and I shall smite all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast, and on all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim. I shall execute judgment. I am YaHuWaH. This is emphatic, big time. He's killing their gods. They're going to go out to battle naked. They have no gods to protect them. You know what I'm saying? He killed them all.
I think it's so interesting that the letters for the first word there in this verse, Ayin Bet Resh Ta, is basically your Passover word there. It's on the left side there, all the way to the left. Ayin Bet Resh Ta, but covenant is Bet Resh Ayin Ta.
Let's see what we get on this one. To cross over. Yeah. And I will pass. Yeah, cross over. So you're thinking about Jordan too. Thinking about Promised Land.
I think crossing over in every way crossover. If YaHuWaH, according to what is his name? The guy who wrote the Planet X, the sign of the second coming of the Son of Man, where he believes that Nibiru will come and that it is going to pick up YaHuWaH's people as destruction's coming down on the earth. We will go up at that same moment.
Wow.
Gill Broussard?
That is a crossing over. Not Gill Broussard. It's the guy who wrote the book, Planet X, the sign of the second coming of the Son of Man. I'll think of his name maybe. But that's what he believes.
I will look that up.
Yeah, based on his understanding of the ancient texts, not only the scriptures, but like Sumerian texts and stuff. And in his book, he believes that the scriptures are the first, and then the others, because of the confusion of the languages, they have their version of it, and it's morphed and that sort of thing. But he talks about the things that are similar, and then he goes through so many chapters. The 7th chapter, I believe it is, where he covers the revelation, what's going to happen. And he believes, based on both the scriptures and what he's looked at in the others, is that Nibiru will come. It is Yahushua's throne, and it will bring
Jason
up the
Rand?
righteous. What, Leah?
Jason Rand?
No, he's got a book, and that's not it.
David Mead. David Mead.
Nope.
Tony
I'll find the book when I hush up here. I'll look for it and bring it over. His name escapes me. I know that Jay and Jay interviewed him. I read the book on the other channel back in the day, back in 2016. We read many chapters of the book, most chapters.
So I just had a thought. Maybe this Passover, crossover. So the Hebrews are at that point. They're at a point where it seems like there's no help. And he parted the waters. They walked through. It was like a baptism. They also crossed over.
They
so
cross
that
through. Others don't get to cross through. Others do. The others do not get to cross through.
Right.
What stops them? They are
Right.
not.
Stops them. So it's sort of like passing through the veil. They got to pass through and go home. Maybe it's an analogy of us also.
Yes, that's what I think.
We're being baptized as we pass through, so we pass through the blood,
We pass through the lies too. We pass through the deceptions. We pass through from our original training where we were hidden and preserved well in the Christian churches. We come out of all that and just go straight to YaHuWaH.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like what it's talking about. I think this is like a mini, hey, this is how you're going to go to heaven.
And this is, by the way, this is the word in English. This word is Hebrew, but Abraham was called Abraham the Hebrew, Abraham the Hebrew, Abraham the one that crosses over.
So that's us, y'all. We're going to cross over.
Yeah.
So that's just an analogy of the priest. Remember the priest crossing over the Jordan into the promised land? So this is an analogy of us passing over into the promised land with no false gods, no stuff, no, being baptized, and we go home. That's profound, isn't it?
It's very
Rob Solarian.
Huh? Do y'all agree with that? Y'all think that's got any?
Definitely, Terri. Definitely.
I think it does. Now, it would be interesting at some point to read the Egyptian manuscripts on this from their point of view, what happened.
Yeah.
So
because
I've got
those recorded. Do you?
I've got them. You want me to show you those?
Can we just get through chapter 12 first? And
yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. So I am YaHuWaH, and the blood shall be a sign for you, and the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I smite the land of Mitzrayim. And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall observe it as a festival to YaHuWaH throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until and on the first
so that mode. Oh, sorry.
law.
Was it done before that? Like before they went into captivity?
Leaven, I mean, sin, being puffed up, you know, that had been going on forever. But no, I can't think of a time. Can y'all?
No, I'm not aware. But I find it's also interesting. We are saved through YaHuWaH's blood. And YaHuWaH is also the door. So the blood on the doorposts is saving these people. So it's for me also a foretelling of then what's happening with YaHuWaH dying for us.
Water in there. My battery's going out, y'all. I got to get to my desk. Does it say salt water anywhere? Salt water? That they pass through salt water? Does it say that?
Not that I know of. But it's just me that I don't know.
It's the Reed Sea, didn't it?
It's what?
The Reed Sea.
We just had something else on the Reed Sea, remember? Well,
it was the locusts, I think. Locusts are blown into the Reed Sea.
Locusts were blown into the Reed Sea. Yep. And didn't they throw the firstborn Hebrews into the Reed Sea?
I thought they buried them.
Yeah. Okay, so
are you saying the Hebrews were thrown into the Reed Sea?
The firstborn, weren't they? Like it was just sort of like Herod.
Of the Egyptians.
The Egyptians killed the firstborn, remember? Trying to thin out the Hebrews, remember? Didn't they throw him into the Reed Sea? They threw him into or maybe into the Nile. I don't know. They threw him into the water.
Is that in the scriptures, Terri, or is that
I think so. I think they just threw him in the water. I don't know.
I just gotta find it, so I'm up to speed on that.
Threw him in the water. Those two midwives. They didn't. Well, did they do it, y'all?
The two midwives didn't do it.
No, the two midwives didn't do it. But, you know, they had to save Moses because they were killing all the firstborn. Anyway, okay. Observe it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you shall cause leaven to cease from your house. Whoever eats leavened bread on the first day till the seventh day, that being shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day is a Kodesh gathering. At all is done on them. Only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. Work at all is done.
Terri, let me stop you right quick because you know everybody may want to be looking for that. It is in chapter 1 of Exodus. It's the last verse, which is 22, which is a great number. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, throw every son who is born into the river and keep alive every daughter.
Yeah, so that's why Moses was in the Nile. They were hiding him.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What is also interesting is that the first day is a gathering day and the seventh day. So if the first day would be the meeting point in Elam or Sukkot as the first or second station of the Exodus, then it would be also interesting what the seventh day would be.
Yeah, where they would be.
Yeah, where, yeah.
And then just as a point of a clarification, in chapter 2, verse 3, it says that Moshe's mother put the child in the basket and laid it in the reeds by the edge of the river. It doesn't say Nile there, unless it says it somewhere else. It doesn't say it there. So again, it's about the river, whatever the river is.
Well, the river always, I mean, the Nile was everything. But it doesn't say Nile, so.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to chapter 12.
Okay, okay, you'll have to help me with this word. And you shall guard the matzah.
That's matzot. It's just the plural of matzah.
Okay, and you shall guard the matzah, for on this day I brought your divisions. See, he put them in divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. So that's the second time he said it. So
it's interesting that he says there in verse 17, I brought them out instead of I am bringing them out.
I brought them out. I brought your divisions.
I mean, from this point
Recognize it
forward, it's
somehow.
always going to be I brought. But at this moment, when he's speaking to him, it's still in the future. But after that moment, it'll always be in the past.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about your divisions. Your divisions. So were they divided already? You know, craftsmen by craftsmen, brick makers, straw
How about
people.
tribe by tribe?
Yeah, that's what I think. So they had, that was an organizational thing probably, unless they lived in their tribes with their
I
tribes,
reckon they lived in their tribe.
like they did later with the tabernacle, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, you shall guard this day. In the first, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month in the evening. For 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened, that same being shall be called for all the and Moshe do not eat. He called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, go out and take lambs for yourself according to your clans. Okay. They were in clans. And they had elders. Y'all see that in 21? They had an organization.
Yeah.
Elders and what was the other thing?
Clans.
Clans. So maybe that's divisions. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike. Here's the word strike instead of put on. Put on. Here it is, strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out. That's in 2. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. And YaHuWaH shall pass on to smite the Israelites. You know, smite and strike and smite, I think are the same word in Hebrew.
You've also got that until morning there.
Yeah, you shall not go out of your house until morning.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Strike. It's right. Okay, and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, and YaHuWaH shall pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses and smite you. So you've got two entities here. It's YaHuWaH shall pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your household to smite you. And you shall guard this word as a law, and for you and your sons forever. And it shall be when you come to the land which YaHuWaH gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. Again, I think this is talking long term, like crossing over when we go to the land that he promised. It's just not Saudi Arabia.
Can I interject with something here that seems really heavy with what you just read? Okay, so it says that YaHuWaH will pass over you with the destroyer. So it's like, imagine Hasatan as the destroyer, and YaHuWaH's saying who he's allowed to destroy and not allowed to destroy. So imagine the anger that he has towards YaHuWaH's people, because he doesn't have the power to destroy them unless he gets them to kind of get them to destroy themselves, right? It's like you said, like two entities. It's YaHuWaH and the destroyer.
Yeah. Okay, what do y'all think about this one? This one, verse 25. And it shall be when you come to the land which YaHuWaH gives you, so think past Saudi Arabia, think heaven, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. So to me, that means we're going to be, the Moedim will continue in heaven.
I don't see it as heaven. I see it as land. Comes to the land which YaHuWaH gives you, because he's going to give them land. They are getting land.
Is that the rain after?
Yeah.
Yeah, the promised land. But I mean, I think to me, if you see past the land, that's heaven. You know, land is physical.
The New Jerusalem.
The New Jerusalem. Yeah, the New Jerusalem.
We're supposed to be given land.
Land would be physical, where I think
it's the inheritance. Yeah,
it's our full inheritance on a spiritual level, like the New Jerusalem. Okay, and you shall guard this service. That tells me we're going to remember that in the New Jerusalem. We're going to continue to remember this. Okay, and it shall be when your children say to you, what does this service mean? Then you shall say, it is the Pesach slaughtering of YaHuWaH, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Mitzrayim when he smote. You got strike, smote, and something else. Descriptive words there. Okay. He smote the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, and delivered our households. And the people bowed their head and did obeisance. What does that mean?
Obeisance.
Did obeisance. And the children of Israel went away and did so at midnight. Because he said about midnight, and now it's exact at midnight, that YaHuWaH smote all of the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all of the firstborn of livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Mitzrites, and there was a loud cry in Mitzrayim, for there was not a house that there was not a dead one. Then he called for Moshe and Aaron by night. So happened, it passed at midnight, and he's calling them by night and said, arise. Now that's get up and go out from the midst of my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go and serve as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds, you have said, and go. Then you shall Baruch me too. As if he can demand that. And the Mitzrites urged the people to hasten to send them away out of the land, for they said, we are all dying. So they were awake. Everybody in Egypt was awake because not a single house had not been, and didn't have a dead one in it. Rise, go out from the midst of my people. Okay, take both your flocks and your herds, if you have said, and go. Then you shall Baruch me. Baruch me too. Also, you do this, and then you also Baruch me. And the Mitzrites urged the people to hasten to send them away out of the land, for they said, we are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moshe, and they had asked from the Mitzrites objects of silver. They already did it. They already asked them.
Yeah, I think we saw that in
Yep.
I just,
That was
I
before.
picture them leaving and the people of Israel just throwing stuff out the window. But they'd already gotten booty.
Yeah.
And the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moshe. I remember him saying that he told them to go get silver and stuff. He told them to do that. And they had asked from the Mitzrites objects of silver, objects of gold, and garments. Garments, that's a new one, garments. And YaHuWaH gave the people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites, so that they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mitzrites. So I wonder if this is the second plunder. Driven out of Mitzrayim, and had not been able to delay, nor had they prepared food for themselves. And the sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Mitzrayim was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of that 430 years, on that same day, it came to be that all the divisions of YaHuWaH went out from the land of Mitzrayim. It is a night to be observed unto YaHuWaH for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. To me, that's saying we're going to go out of the physical. We're going to go to the New Jerusalem. We're not going to be in the promised land is here on this earth, but it's not land. He's bringing us out permanently. It is a night to be observed unto YaHuWaH for bringing them out of the land, i.e., off this wicked plan, throughout their generations. And YaHuWaH said to Moshe and Aaron, this is the law of the Pesach. No son of a stranger is to eat it. But any servant a man has bought for silver, then when you have circumcised him, then let him eat of it. Bought with silver. Okay. One house. You are not to take any of the flesh outside the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. And of course, that's talking about Yahushua on the cross. All the congregation of Israel were to perform it. And when a stranger sojourns with you and shall, then let him come near and perform it. and he shall be as a native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it.
That's important.
That's important. That's talking about Gentiles, I think, being grafted in. That's grafted in stuff. And the children of Israel did as YaHuWaH commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. And it came to be on that same day that YaHuWaH brought the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim according to their divisions. So what did we learn there new? There was a tomorrow, there was the next day. They didn't leave that night. Y'all agree with that?
Yep, I do agree with it.
So then, Donna, the question is, you said they left at night. Where did you found that one?
That is and thanks to Troy Miller, by the way, that is Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. And he goes through this. It's like, okay, they left like Mitzrayim proper on the night of the 15th, but they didn't leave Egypt proper until the night of the 16th, I think it is. So I'm going by memory on that one, but I did look it up the other day when we were in here last. Deuteronomy 16, verse 1 says, guard the month of Abib and perform the Pesach to YaHuWaH your Elohim. For in the month of Abib, YaHuWaH your Elohim brought you out of Mitzrayim by night.
Yeah, I think it was that night. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and they were like, get out right now.
But there's still talk about the next morning.
Well,
yeah.
I understand what Terri says. So
I think it was a Shabbat.
In the night, the decision was made.
I just can't
spend all that day gathering up stuff. Like,
yeah,
you wouldn't be able to just pack up and go, like, especially rounding up animals and loading up.
And they plundered maybe a second time. They plundered. It said plundered the second time. It said ask for, I think, the first time.
He softened their heart the first time.
You think it was twice too, Taz? I don't think it's without the outside of the realm of possibility for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know how YaHuWaH is making sure that he repeats himself. It's like when we repeat ourselves to our children. This is what you're going to do, and that's just my take on it. If I've told you once, I've told you twice, so to speak.
Yeah.
Double portion.
Definitely be that too. And then also how Moshe asked him, I think that's another thing that we learned. It wasn't just our animals, we're taking yours too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you're going to provide the sacrificial.
Exactly. That's, as you said, bold.
If you're enjoying this video, click like, subscribe, click the bell, and please share this video. Shalom. Let's get back to the video.
That's cool, isn't it? I just see it in a whole different way now.
Yeah, Troy Miller has quite a bit on just that sort of that timeline as they're getting out of Egypt. I'd recommend visiting that for further study on it. But Terri, I want to get to what you have to share from the Kolbrin Bible.
Okay, I'm going to have to do it really kind of fast.
Okay.
I was reading this yesterday. I wanted to read the Egyptian account of this. You know, I wanted to see, well, what are they saying? So we know history's written by the victor, although they're saying they were destroyed. But an interesting thing about this is they're saying a lot of stragglers at the end who were carrying their stuff, you know, such an analogy. For us, they were lagging behind. They were scared. They were holding onto their carts and wagons and their money and their everything they took out. And those are the ones the Egyptians killed. Lesson from that is forget about your stuff. This was really thrown together, y'all, in 10 minutes. Okay, there's the Kolbrin Bible. Let me preface this. These are the Egyptian manuscripts. And these are just old preserved writings that they found in a Glastonbury Abbey in Britain. I'm not sure when they found these, but these are the writings of the Egyptians. So
I'll read it. It's exciting.
Okay. Yeah, manuscript 6-1.
Okay. The dark days began with the last visitation of the destroyer. and they were foretold by strange omens in the skies. All men were silent and went about with pale faces.
Manuscript 6, verse 2. The leaders of the slaves which had built a city to the esteem of Thom stirred up unrest, and no man raised his arm against them. They foretold great events of which the people were ignorant, and of which the temple seers were not informed. Manuscript 6, verse 3. These were days of ominous calm, when the people waited for they knew not what. The presence of an unseen doom was felt. The hearts of men were stricken. Laughter was heard no more, and grief and wailing sounded throughout the land. Even the voices of children were stilled, and they did not play together, but stood silent. Manuscript 6, verse 4. The slaves became bold and insolent, and women were the possession of any man. Fear walked the land, and women became barren with terror. They could not conceive, and those with child aborted. All men closed up within themselves. 6 verse 5. The days of stillness were followed by a time when the noise of trumpeting and shrilling was heard in the heavens, and the people became as frightened beasts without a herdsman, as asses when lions prowl without their fold. 6 verse 6. The people spoke of the deity of the slaves, and reckless men said, if we knew where this deity were to be found, we would sacrifice to him. But the deity of the slaves was not among them. He was not to be found within the swamplands or in the brick pits. His manifestation was in the heavens for all men to see, but they did not see with understanding, nor would any deity listen, for all were dumb because of the hypocrisy of men. 6 verse 7. The dead were no longer sacred and were thrown into the waters. Those already entombed were neglected, and many became exposed. They lay unprotected against the hands of thieves. He who once toiled long in the sun, bearing the yoke himself, now possessed oxen. He who grew no grain now owned a storehouse full. He who once dwelt at ease among his children now thirsted for water. He who once sat in the sun with crumbs and dregs was now bloated with food. He reclined in the shade, his bowls overflowing.
6:8. Cattle were left unattended to roam into strange pastures, and men ignored their marks and slew the beasts of the neighbors. No man owned anything. 6:9. The public records were cast forth and destroyed, and no man knew who were slaves and who were masters. The people cried out to the Pharaoh in their distress, but he stopped his care and acted like a deaf man. It sounds like the times of what we're coming into, with wormwood coming. 6:10. There were those who spoke falsely before Pharaoh and had gods hostile towards the land. Therefore the people cried out for their blood to appease it. But it was not these strange priests who put strife in the land instead of peace. For one was even of the household of Pharaoh and walked among the people unhampered.
I wonder if that's
6:11.
Moses.
Yeah. Dust and smoke clouds darkened the sky and colored the waters upon which they fell with a bloody base. So that sounds like the iron, right? The iron that plagued the waters.
Plague was throughout the land. The river was bloody, and blood was everywhere. The water was vile, and men's stomachs shrank from drinking. Those who did drink from the river vomited it up, for it was polluted.
6:12. The dust tore wounds in the skin of man and beast. In the glow of the destroyer, the earth was filled with redness. Vermin bred and filled the air and face of the earth with loathsomeness. Wild beasts afflicted with torments under the lashing sand and ashes came out of their lairs in the wastelands and cave places and stalked the abodes of men. All the tame beasts whimpered, and the land was filled with the cries of sheep and moans of cattle. 6:13. Trees throughout the land were destroyed, and no herb or fruit was to be found. The face of the land was battered and devastated by a hail of stones, which smashed down all that stood in the path of the torrent. They swept down in hot showers, and strange flowing fire ran along the ground in their wake.
14. The fish of the river died in the polluted waters. Worms, insects, and reptiles sprang up from the earth in huge numbers. Great gusts of wind brought swarms of locusts, which covered the sky. As the destroyer flung itself through the heavens, it blew great gusts of cinders across the face of the land. The gloom of a long night spread a dark mantle of blackness, which extinguished every ray of light. So there's the darkness. None knew when it was day or when it was night, for the sun cast no shadow. The darkness was not the clean blackness of night, but a thick darkness in which the breath of men was stopped in their throats. Men gasped in a hot cloud of vapor, which enveloped all the land and snuffed out all lamps. Men were benumbed and lay moaning in their beds. None spoke to another or took food, for they were overwhelmed with despair. Ships were sucked away from their moorings and destroyed in great whirlpools. It was a time of undoing. The earth turned over as clay spun upon a potter's wheel. The whole land was filled with uproar from the thunder of the destroyer overhead and the cry of the people. There was the sound of moaning and lamentation on every side. The earth spewed up its dead. Corpses were cast up out of their resting places, and the embalmed were revealed to the sight of all men. Pregnant women miscarried, and the seed of men was stopped. The craftsman left his task undone. The potter abandoned his wheel, and the carpenter his tools, and they departed to dwell in the marshlands. All crafts were neglected, and the slaves lured the craftsmen away. The dues of Pharaoh could not be collected, for there was neither wheat nor barley, goose nor fish. The rights of Pharaoh could not be enforced, for the field of the grains and the pastures were destroyed. The highborn and the lowly prayed together that life might come to an end, and the turmoil and thundering ceased to beat upon their ears. Terror was the companion of men by day, and horror their companion by night. Men lost their senses and became mad, and they were distracted by frightfulness. On the great night of the destroyer's wrath, when its terror was at its height, there was a hail of rocks, and the earth heaved as pain rent her bowels. Gates, columns, and walls were consumed by fire, and the statues of gods were overthrown and broken. People fled outside their dwellings in fear and were slain by the hail. Those who took shelter from the hail were swallowed up when the earth split open. The habitations of men collapsed upon those inside, and there was panic on every hand, but the slaves who lived in huts in the reed lands at the place of pits were spared. The land burnt like tinder. A man watched upon his rooftops, and the heavens hurled wrath upon him, and he died. The land writhed under the wrath of the destroyer and groaned with the agony of Egypt. It shook itself, and the temples and the palaces of the nobles were thrown down from their foundation. The highborn ones perished in the midst. In the scripture, it said the mighty ones, didn't it? All the mighty ones. So the highborn ones perished in the midst of the ruins, and all the strength of the land was stricken. Even the great one, the firstborn of Pharaoh, died with the highborn in the midst of the terror and falling stones. The children of princes were cast out into the street, and those who were not cast out died within their abodes. There were 9 days of darkness and upheaval, while a tempest raged such as never had been known before. When it passed away, brother buried brother throughout the land. Men rose up against those in authority and fled from the cities to dwell in tents in the outlands. Egypt lacked great men to deal with the times. The people were weak from fear and bestowed gold, silver, lapis lazuli, turquoise, copper upon the slaves. And to their priests they gave chalices, urns, and ornaments. Pharaoh alone remained calm and strong in the midst of confusion. The people turned to wickedness in their weakness and despair. Harlots walked through the streets unashamed. Women paraded their limbs and flaunted their womanly charms. Highborn women were in rags, and the virtuous were mocked. 24. The slaves, spared by the destroyer, left the accursed land forthwith. Their multitude moved in the gloom of a half-dawn under a mantle of fine, swirling gray ash. So it reminds me of the pillars, in front of him and behind him. Leaving the burnt fields and shattered cities behind them, many Egyptians attached themselves to the host. We know that's true.
For one who was great led them forth, a priest prince of the inner courtyard.
Fire mounted up on high, and its burning left with the enemies of Egypt. It rose up from the ground as a fountain and hung as a curtain in the sky. In 7 days, by Rimwar, the accursed one journeyed to the waters. So it's saying here it took them 7 days. They journeyed to the waters. They crossed the heaving wilderness while the hills melted around them. Above, the skies were torn with lightning. They were sped by terror, but their feet became entangled in the land, and the wilderness shut them in. They knew not the way, for no sign was constant before them. They turned before Nashriah, which I wonder if that's Moses, and stopped at Sukkot, a place of quarries. They passed the waters of Maha and came by the valley to Pitkaroth, which that is kind of the name of that place where they supposedly crossed, northward of Mara. They came up against the waters, which blocked their way, and their hearts were in despair. The night was a night of fear and dread, for there was a high moaning above, and black winds from the underworld were loosed. A fire sprang up from the ground. The hearts of the slaves shrank within them, for they knew the wrath of Pharaoh followed them, and that there was no way of escape. They hurled abuse on those who led them. Strange rites were performed along the shore that night. The slaves disputed among themselves, and there was violence. 28. Pharaoh had gathered his army and followed the slaves. After he departed, there were riots and disorders behind him, for the cities were plundered. The laws were cast out of the judgment halls and trampled underfoot in the streets. The storehouses and granaries were burst open and robbed. Roads were flooded and none could pass along them. People lay dead on every side. The palace was split and the princes and officials fled, so that none was left with authority to command. The list of numbers were destroyed. Public places were overthrown and households became confused and unknown. Pharaoh pressed on in sorrow, for behind him all was desolation and death. Before him were things he could not understand. He was afraid, but he carried himself well and stood before his host with courage. He sought to bring back the slaves, for the people said their magic was greater than the magic of Egypt. The host of Pharaoh came upon the slaves by the saltwater shores, but was held back from them by a breath of fire. A great cloud was spread over the host and darkened the sky. None could see except for the fiery glow and the unceasing lightning which rent the covering cloud overhead. A whirlwind arose in the east and swept over the encamped host. A gale raged all night, and in the red twilight dawn there was a movement of the earth. The waters receded from the seashore and were rolled back on themselves. There was a strange silence, and then, in the gloom, it was seen that the waters had parted, leaving a passage between. The land had risen, but it was disturbed and trembled. The way was not straight or clear. The waters about were as spun within a bowl, and the swampland alone remained undisturbed. From the horn of the destroyer came a high, shrilling noise which stopped the ears of men. The slaves had been making sacrifices in despair. Their lamentations were loud. Now, before the strange sight, there was hesitation and doubt. For the space of a breath, they stood still and silent. Then all was confusion and shouting. Some pressed forward into the waters against all who sought to flee back from the unstable ground. Then, in exultation, their leader led them into the midst of the waters through the confusion. Yet many sought to turn back into the host behind them, while others fled along the empty shores.
Wow.
Isn't this incredible? This is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, why have we not heard of this before? Like, so much is hidden from us. Everything, all the stuff that I'm seeing about wormwood coming in or Planet X or whatever, people are saying, it sounds just like that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me one more time what page, Teza?
385.
Thank you so much. I'm getting there. Wow, it's a long document, but when we share this on YouTube, we'll be able to put a link in so people can download it and read it. It's fascinating.
It is.
6:33, all became still over the sea and upon the shore, but behind the earth shook and boulders split with a great noise. The wrath of heaven was removed to a distance and stood upwards of the two hosts. Wow. 6:34, still the host of Pharaoh held its ranks firm and resolved before the strange and awful happenings. Undaunted by the fury which raged by their side, stern faces were lit darkly by the fiery curtain. Then the fury departed, and there was silence. Stillness spread over the land, while the host of Pharaoh stood without movement in the red glow. Then with a shout the captains went forward, and the host rose up behind them. The curtain of fire had rolled up into a dark, billowing cloud, which spread out as a canopy. There was a stirring of the waters, but they followed the evildoers past the place of the great whirlpool. The passage was confused in the midst of the waters, and the ground beneath unstable. Here in the midst of a tumult of waters, Pharaoh fought against the hindmost of the slaves and prevailed over them. And there was a great slaughter amid the sand, the swamp, and the water. The slaves cried out in despair, but their cries were unheeded. 36. Their possessions were scattered behind them as they fled, so that the way was easier for them than for those who followed. 37. Then the stillness was broken by a mighty roar, and through the rolling pillars of cloud, the wrath of the destroyer descended upon the hosts. The heavens roared as with 1,000 thunders. The bowels of the earth were sundered, and earth shrieked its agony. The cliffs were torn away and cast down. The dry ground fell beneath the waters, and great waves broke upon the shore, sweeping in rocks from seaward. Verse 38. The great surge of rocks and waters overwhelmed the chariots of the Egyptians who went before the footmen. The chariot of the Pharaoh was hurled into the air as if by a mighty hand and was crushed in the midst of the rolling waters. Verse 39, tidings of the disaster came back by Regeb, son of Thomat, who hastened on ahead of the terrified survivors because of his burning. He brought reports unto the people that the host had been destroyed by blast and deluge. The captains had gone, the strong men had fallen, and none remained to command. Therefore the people revolted because of the calamities which had befallen them. Cowards slunk from their lairs and came forth boldly to assume the high offices of the dead. Wow. Comely and noble women, their protectors gone, were their prey. Of the slaves, the greater number had perished before the host of Pharaoh. Verse 40. The broken land lay helpless, and invaders came out of the gloom like carrion. A strange people came up against Egypt, and none stood to fight, for strength and courage were gone. Verse 41, the invaders led by Alcanon came up out of the land of the deities because of the wrath of heaven which had laid their land waste. There too had been a plague of reptiles and ants, signs and omens, and an earthquake. There also had been turmoil and disaster, disorder and famine, with the gray breath of the destroyer sweeping the ground and stopping the breath of men. Verse 42. And Tur gathered together the remnants of his fighting men and the fighting men who were left in Egypt, and set forth to meet the children of darkness who came out of the eastern mountains by way of the wilderness and by way of Yeth-Nobis. They fell upon the stricken land from behind the great cloud, before the lifting of the darkness and before the coming of the purifying winds. Verse 43. Regeb went with Pharaoh and met the invaders at Herosher, but the hearts of the Egyptians were faint within them. Their spirits were no longer strong, and they fell away before the battle was lost. Deserted by the deities above and below, their dwellings destroyed, their households scattered, they were as men already half dead. Their hearts were still filled with terror and with the memory of the wrath which had struck them from out of heaven. They were still filled with the memory of the fearsome sight of the destroyer, and they knew not what they did. Verse 44. Pharaoh did not return to his city. He lost his heritage and was seized by a demon for many days. His women were polluted and his estates plundered. The children of darkness defiled the temples with rams and ravished women who were crazed and did not resist. They enslaved all who were left, the old, young men, and boys. They oppressed the people, and their delight was in mutilation and torture. Pharaoh abandoned his hopes and fled into the wilderness beyond the province of the lake, which is in the west towards the south. He lived a Tob life among the sand wanderers and wrote books. Verse 46, Tob times it came again, even under the invaders, and ships sailed upstream. The air was purified, the breath of the destroyer passed away, and the land became filled again with growing things. Life was renewed throughout the whole land. Verse 47, Care taught these things to the children of light in the days of darkness, after the building of the Rambuda, before the death of Pharaoh Ankhed. Verse 48, This is written in this land and in our tongue by YaHuWaH, who himself chose it for saving. It was not seen until the latter days.
Wow.
Yeah. So obviously this goes on and on. There's, I don't even know how many pages, but it looks like we're only halfway through, just looking at each
There's
chapter.
855 pages.
Ooh.
So it's the full Bible.
Yeah. And it's all Egyptian history.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we can leave a link to this PDF. Wow, that's profound. Well, Gill Broussard, it's been a long time since I've seen his work, but he believed that this event happened was a result of Nibiru coming through. Like it is both a destroyer and it is the throne of Yeshua, and like a traveling throne. What he travels to the earth with is his traveling throne, is what he was able to understand it as. And that it would, in the time of Revelation, when the wrath is poured out on the earth to destroy all the rebellion and all the wickedness, that it would at the same time gather up the people of YaHuWaH who would not face the wrath. Gill Broussard would talk about Nibiru being the thing that caused the eclipse for the 3 hours while Yahushua was on the execution stake. And then, of course, he was taken up after being with his disciples. So that would indicate that if that were true, if Nibiru was hanging around for the causing the 3 hours of darkness and also took him up, then that's many, many days that it was around. And what if this about where the Kolbrin Bible indicates that parting of the water didn't happen for 7 days?
Yeah, it's back in chapter 6:26. It was talking about that. In the 7 days, the Ramwah and the accused ones journeyed to the waters. They crossed the heavy wilderness while the hills melted around them. 6:26.
The cursed ones journeyed to the waters. They crossed the heaving wilderness while the hills melted around them. Of the skies were torn with lightning.
Look at 27. When they turned before Nosheri. So did they turn? Is that a town or a place?
I don't know, but it looks a lot like, you see how this is the word Sukkot, which is temporary dwelling, I believe, right? Sukkot, yeah. That would be Sukkot, temporary dwellings, and we're told in the scriptures that YaHuWaH took them to this place. But this looks like Natsar to me.
Okay.
This looks a little bit like Natsar to me in the Hebrew word. We know that this is the word for bitter, and yeah, this looks like the YaHuWaH kind of word.
So what was the first place that they stopped at when they left?
I don't know. We'd have to go back and look at it. Y'all want to go back and look at it?
I don't mind.
Okay, we could go to, let me see.
We've got up to Exodus 13.
And we'll go to Exodus 13 ISR. Again, he's telling them 7 days you're going to eat unleavened bread. And it shall be when YaHuWaH brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, the Canaan, the promised land, that you shall pass over to YaHuWaH, every one opening the womb, and every firstborn that comes from your livestock, the males belong to YaHuWaH. But every firstborn of a donkey you are to ransom with a lamb, and if you do not ransom it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn of man among your sons are to ransom. He later changed this to the tribe of Levi. They were ransomed with Louis. And it shall be when your sons ask you in time to come, saying, what is this? Then you shall say to him, by strength of hand, YaHuWaH brought us out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And it came to be when Pharaoh was too hardened to let us go, that YaHuWaH killed every firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beasts. Therefore I am slaughtering to YaHuWaH every male that opened the womb, but every firstborn of my sons I ransom. And it shall be as a sign on your hand and as frontlets between your eyes, for by strength of hand YaHuWaH brought us out of Mitzrayim. And it came to be when Pharaoh had let the people go, that Elohim did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, though that was near. For Elohim said, lest the people regret when they see fighting, and return to Mitzrayim. So Elohim led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Sea of Reeds, and the children of Yasharel went up armed from the land of Mitzrayim. And Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him, for he certainly made the children of Yasharel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring my bones from here with you. And they departed from Sukkot and encamped in Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. And YaHuWaH went before them by day in a column of cloud. Stop, puppies. And YaHuWaH went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. The column of cloud did not cease by day, nor the column of fire by night before the people. I have a suspicion this is not going to tell us these details, but maybe over Asher. All right, here we go. And YaHuWaH spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Yasharel that they turn and camp before Pi Hahiroth, between Migdol. What, Teza?
That sounds similar.
Yeah. Between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal Zephon, camp before it by the sea. For Pharaoh shall say to the children of Yasharel, they are entangled in the land, and wilderness has closed them in. And that's pretty much what we just saw there. It said they're entangled in the land, and the wilderness.
Yeah.
I think it said basically that wilderness has closed them in.
Yeah.
And I shall harden the heart of Pharaoh, and he shall pursue them, which he did. But I am to be esteemed, though Pharaoh and over all his army, and the Mitzrayim shall know that I am YaHuWaH. And they did so. And it was reported to the sovereign of Mitzrayim that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this, that we let Yasharel go from serving us? So he made his chariot ready and took his people with him. And he took 600 choice chariots, and all the chariots of Mitzrayim with officers all over all of them. And YaHuWaH hardened the heart of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and he pursued the children of Yasharel. But the children of Yasharel went out defiantly, and the Mitzrayim pursued them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea beside Pi Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Yasharel lifted their eyes and saw the Mitzrayim coming after them, and they were greatly afraid. So the children of Yasharel cried out to YaHuWaH. And they said to Moshe, did you take us away to die in the wilderness because there were no graves in Mitzrayim? What is this you have done to us to bring us up out of Mitzrayim? Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Mitzrayim, saying, leave us alone and let us serve the Mitzrayim? For it would have been better for us to serve the Mitzrayim than to die in the wilderness. And Moshe said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the deliverance of YaHuWaH, which he does for you today. For the Mitzrayim whom you see today, you are never, never to see again. YaHuWaH does fight for you, and you keep still. And YaHuWaH said to Moshe, why do you cry to me? Speak to the children of Yasharel and let them go forward. And you lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and let the children of Yasharel go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, seeing I am hardening the hearts of the Mitzrayim, and they shall follow you. And I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh and over all his army, his chariots, and his horsemen. And the Mitzrayim shall, I got lost here. And the Mitzrayim shall know that I am YaHuWaH, whom when I am esteemed through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen, and the messenger of Elohim who went before the camp of Yasharel moved and went behind them. And the column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them, and came between the camp of the Mitzrayim and the camp of Yasharel. And it was the cloud and the darkness, and it gave light by night, and the one did not come near the other all the night. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and YaHuWaH caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So again, it looks like they're crossing at dark time. And the children of Yasharel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. And the Mitzrayim pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to be in the morning watch that YaHuWaH looked down upon the army of the Mitzrayim through the column of fire and cloud, and he brought the army of the Mitzrayim into confusion. And he took off their chariot wheels so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Mitzrayim said, let us flee from the face of Yasharel, for YaHuWaH fights for them against the Mitzrayim. Then YaHuWaH said to Moshe, stretch out your hand over the sea and let the waters come back upon the Mitzrayim, on their chariots and on their horsemen. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its usual flow at the break of day, with the Mitzrayim fleeing into it. Thus YaHuWaH overthrew the Mitzrayim in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, and not even one was left of them. And the children of Yasharel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. Thus YaHuWaH saved Yasharel that day out of the hand of the Mitzrayim. And Yasharel saw the Mitzrayim dead on the seashore. And Yasharel saw the great work which YaHuWaH had done in Mitzrayim. And the people feared YaHuWaH and believed YaHuWaH and his servant Moshe. Wow.
So back in the Kolbrin Bible, that they in this word that was written there were 7 days.
Yeah, is that in Jasher at all?
I'll have a look and see. Because my mindset, I always thought it was they had 3 days ahead.
I think somewhere in scripture it tells us that they left Egypt proper on the 16th day. And then we know that, and sometimes this stuff is over in Deuteronomy because it's a retelling of it.
Yes, that's what I've found.
Yeah.
In Jasher, it says the children of Israel journeyed from Ramsey to Sukkot with about 6,000 men on foot beside their little ones and wives. That's 81:1. And then it says in 5, and the children of Israel traveled from Mitzrayim from.
There goes my internet dropping out again. What'd you say, Teza?
YaHuWaH had smitten, and they slayed for 3 days. Traveled from Sukkot to Ethon, the wilderness. I can keep on looking, but it doesn't really tell me here.
Oh, let me look in see what else we see in Deuteronomy chapter 2.
I lost you guys for a while, but this stuff is just fascinating, eh?
Isn't
Glad
it?
you're back. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, my internet's really tricky today. You'll have to let me know if I just drop out because I won't even know until I get back. Then we turn.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Leah.
I was just going to say, yeah, we've had freezing rain and thunder and lightning all day, but now it's turned to like an ice fog. So the weight on the on all the wires and the trees is just weighing everything down. So it's cutting in and out. If it starts doing it too much, I'll just leave again so that it's not, keep dinging and dinging. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know if this is the right place. I want to start. I'm not sure if this is the right place to start or not. Does it say about the sea? I thought I was looking at where they're going into the sea here. No, it's just saying, it's talking about, oh, here we go. Then we turned and set out into the wilderness, the way of the Sea of the Reeds, as YaHuWaH spoke to me, and we went around Mount Seir many days. But I think what I need to do is look at one real quick. So he's saying, these are the words which Moshe spoke to all of Yasharel. And it came to be in the 40th year in the 11th month on the first day of the month. That's almost 41 years, by the way. Beyond the Yarden in the land of Moab, Moshe undertook to declare this Torah, saying, YaHuWaH our Elohim spoke to us in Horeb, saying, you have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and set out on your way and go into the mountains of the Amorites, into all the neighboring places in the desert. So it looks like he's not really starting with their Egyptian, their escape from Egypt. This is sometime past that when this picks up the story. Verse 40 says, but you turn and take your journey into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds. Then you answered and said to me, we have sinned against YaHuWaH. We ourselves are going up, and we shall fight as YaHuWaH our Elohim commanded us. Yeah, so this doesn't look like it's at the time of the escape from Egypt. It's sometime well beyond that, I think. So we can't go to Deuteronomy to get any information on how long they were there. It used to be a great presentation on, I wonder if I can find it. It would be where, I think I can maybe find it in the images. Where did the Hebrews cross out of Egypt? And then I think it's like YaHuWaH. We can find it in the images. Here we go. Maybe this is it. The Exodus route. So you can see they're coming out of here like this, according to this. And then they crossed over here. So this is the crossing point. And did it take 2 days to get here? Did it take, so they have a camp here. This is day 16 here. Oh, and then it says day 17 to 25, they camped here. How about that?
Is that before? How many days did it take? Was it 40 days? Can somebody refresh my mind? That they could have crossed over, but then they wandered for 40 years. Can you remember how many?
I don't know. I think they got to, that's in Numbers, I think it's Numbers 33. I'm in the wrong one. I need a English Hebrew one I got notes in. Numbers 33 is when they got to Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
And here I could pull that up on Numbers 33 ISR. All right, these are the departures of the children of Yasharel who went out of the land of Mitzrayim by their divisions under the hand of Moshe and Aharon. And Moshe wrote down the starting points of their departures at the command of YaHuWaH, and these are their departures according to their starting points. So they departed from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month. Okay, and then we know from Deuteronomy 16 verse 1, they left at night. And this is on the morrow of the Passover. The children of Yasharel went out with boldness before the eyes of all the Mitzrayim. And the Mitzrayim were bearing all their firstborn, whom YaHuWaH had smitten among them. Also on their mighty ones, this may be Elohim Akarim here, their other latter-day mighty ones. YaHuWaH had executed judgments. Then the children of Yasharel departed from Ramses and camped at Sukkot. So they departed from Ramses on the 15th in the nighttime. Then they departed from Ramses and camped at Sukkot. And they departed from Sukkot and camped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. And so we go back to here real quick. That's this Etham here, this edge of the wilderness. And they departed from Etham and turned back to Pi Hahiroth, which is east of Baal Zephon, and they camped near Migdal. And they departed from before Hahiroth and passed over through the midst of the sea into the wilderness, went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham, and camped at Marah. So
that's 3 days there.
That's 3 days there over on this side. Exodus route.
So that, would that be 5 days? Like they camped at Sukkot, like they departed Ramses.
They left Sukkot, which is up here somewhere, and then they camped here on day 16. And
so
then
that's Sukkot at day 16.
Which is a feast of first fruits, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
And then this is saying they were here for another like 9 days here. That's 9 days. They're here another 9 days.
Well, that 9 days fits in with what Terri was reading earlier.
That 9 days does fit. They said they had 9 days of darkness.
Yeah.
Well, if they had a cloud here between them, I don't know if that aligns with that 9 days or not. But this is a great presentation here. It goes into a lot of detail. I feel like I'm not actually at the website, but I am at the website. It looks like I could just put Exodus in here, maybe. Be great to know. There's more than one slide. I'm just not at, oh wow. Okay. So he's talking about let's see if I can make this bigger. Let's do that. Oh, there's big. Okay, in 1446 BC, the 750-kilometer trip from Goshen, which is Tel Daba, that's new information for me, I didn't know that, to Mount Sinai took a total of 47 days. After traveling 490 kilometers from Goshen, they made the 19-kilometer crossing of the Red Sea at the Straits of Tiran on day 25, then took 22 days to travel 260 kilometers from the Red Sea crossing to Mount Sinai. Travel was easy for the 3 million Hebrews because there was a 20-kilometer wide and flat coastal plain that hugged the eastern shore of the Gulf of Suez from Goshen to the Strait of Tiran. After they crossed the Red Sea, this highway continued to the wilderness of Sin. So it's like a highway. The only portion of the trip that was difficult was between the wilderness of Sin through Dofka to Alush. It is amazing that scripture notes that only during this portion of the journey they traveled in stages. Exodus 17 verse 1, because the terrain was narrow and difficult. Day 9 was leaving Goshen. Day 9 after leaving Goshen, they arrived at Sukkot. Day 9 of their trip.
That fits in with what Terri was reading.
Yeah, well, the day 9 part did. They arrived at day 9 after leaving. They arrived at Sukkot. Day 15, they passed the Migdal stationed above the final Red Sea crossing point, and on day 16, they reached the dead end at Etham. So day 9 after leave. All right, this is before they left Egypt. This is day 9 with 14 being the Passover day. Day 9 after leaving Goshen, they arrived at Sukkot. Day 15, they passed the Migdal station above this was the day they left. Day 15, they left.
I'm looking at that as the 9 days after they left Goshen.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And yet it's just confusing with the image because it says day 16, they reached the dead end at Etham.
Yeah.
So that drawing is a different It's not the 16th day of the first month. It's 16 days after they left.
Yes.
Elohim orders them to backtrack to the final Red Sea crossing camp beside the Migdal, where Elohim uses Yasharel to bait Pharaoh to attack. It would take 5 hours for a passenger pigeon to fly from the Egyptian watchtower Migdal back to Egypt with the message Israel was trapped and hopeless. For 8 days, Israel camped at the Red Sea crossing point from days 17 to 24. So this evidently is not days 17 to 24 of the first month. This is the 17th day after they left, is what it looks like it's reading to me. While Pharaoh's army pursued Israel with 600. Okay, so yeah, that's what, if day 9 after leaving Goshen, then that is 9 days after the 15th. Right?
So if they've stopped and it's day 22, they've rested.
Day 9. So if we're counting from the 15th, 9 more days, that's roughly the 24th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then another 6 days after that, that's the end of the month. That means there's a in here.
So is there a Sabbath there?
Well, there'd be a new moon anyway, because that's 15 days after. If they're leaving on the 15th, this is day 30. So we're in new moon. Day 29 being a Shabbat. Day 15, they pass the Migdal station above the final Red Sea crossing point. And on day 16, which would be like the first work day after new moon, unless it's a 2-day new moon, which could be. They reached, let's see, if there's a day 15, it's either a new moon day or it's 30 days. It's either a new moon day or it's like a transition day, depending on if it's a 30-day month or a 29-day month. So this day 16 would roughly be the first day of the month, the second month of the Hebrew year. They reach the dead end at Etham. Elohim orders them to backtrack to the final Red Sea crossing, okay? And then they're trapped there. That's the message. They're trapped there for 8 days. Israel camped. So this is 17 to 24 days after they left Egypt on day 15. So roughly days 2 to 10 of the second month. While Pharaoh's army pursued Israel with 600 choice horse-drawn chariots. So on day 17, this is roughly like day 2 of the second month. Pharaoh's army easily traveled from Goshen to the Red Sea crossing in 8 days. They got there in 8 days. Okay, so if it's day 2, then that'd be like 2 plus 8, day 10 of the second month at a rate of 60 kilometers a day with horse-drawn chariots, and arrived on day 24. So this is 24 days after they left. After crossing the Red Sea at the Straits of Tiran via the natural underwater land bridge on day 25, Israel traveled 3 days. So it's saying that they crossed this bridge. They crossed the land. That's what this study is saying. They crossed 25 days after they left Egypt, after they left Goshen. And then they traveled another 3 days and they arrived at the second Red Sea camp. Exactly 31 days after leaving Goshen, they entered the wilderness of Sin, which it tells us is Exodus 16:1 is basically saying 2 months later, I think. Or ER is the second month, which I know is Zu in the scriptures. So it's saying 31 days after leaving Goshen, they entered the wilderness. So from Nisan 15 to ER 15.
But Nisan 15 is, yeah, and to the
yeah,
that's the month. Yeah, that's the first month.
Yeah, so that's when they left. So it took them 31 days to get to ER. Or
they must have had a day new moon.
And that scripture is going to be, that scriptural reference is going to be Exodus 16:1. which is also the chapter where YaHuWaH teaches them his calendar. So 16:1 says, and they departed from Elim, and after the congregation of the children of Yasharel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their going out of the land of Mitzrayim. So they crossed this land bridge 6 days before the 15th of ER.
6 days, did you say?
Looks like it, because they're saying basically this is like saying on day 31, exactly 31 days after they left Goshen. So 31 days from Nisan 15 is ER 15. If it was 30 days, this would say ER 14. So exactly on the 31st day, ER 15. So they're saying this happened. They crossed over 6 days before that. So on the 9th of ER or Zu in the scriptures, on the 9th of Zu is when this crossing happened in the Red Sea. I don't know what their evidence is, but that's what this is saying.
Yeah.
Based on their research. Pretty interesting, huh?
Shalom, Bonnie. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Bonnie. Wow.
Hello.
So their route. Here's Goshen over here. And they're saying all of this time, this was the 9th day of the 2nd month when this crossing happened. He's got scriptures here. Exodus 14:3 says, for Pharaoh shall say of the children of Yasharel, they are entangled in the land, the wilderness has closed them in. Here's the Sukkot stop. And so it says, see Sinai inscription. There's some sort of Sinai inscription from Hebrew miners, maybe. So this is the way of Horus that YaHuWaH didn't want to take them because of their fear. So they had to go this way. And it says Exodus route itinerary, 47 days. So again, this is his evidence. I'm not saying that it's actual or anything, but I'm saying somebody's done some research and this is what they've come up with. Bonnie is here. I'm so tired I didn't recognize her clock.
I'm here. Yeah.
Surprised you made it at all. I could barely breathe this morning.
Oh, yeah. I'm exhausted, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's Shabbat.
Shalom, Bonnie. Sounds like you've had an exciting couple of days, eh?
Oh, it's just been like full on. And one of those questions on the map sort of stuff there, one of those questions I had yesterday from somebody quite learned was, okay, because I tried to explain from Troy Miller's perspective the timing for Shavuot. One of the questions, so I'm glad you're looking at that map and the timing that it took for them to get to Sinai, because we know that Shavuot is the remembrance of the law coming down the mountain for Shavuot. But the question that I didn't have an answer to was, how does that parallel with the New Testament and what Yeshua did?
Yeah. So the scriptures talk about when, as far as I know, when the 50 days have fully come, when the Pentecost is fully come, right? The 50 days don't come until you have 7 Shabbats complete, and then there's an addition of 50 days. That's when the 50 days are fully come. Moshe went.
Yeah, it was like we were poring over the books and trying, it's like, yeah, you might be right. It's like, yeah, I prove me wrong.
Yeah, awesome. So you were making some headway with them, huh?
Oh, it was great. Fantastic.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So it was 14 and it was just like, wow, it was just so great to be in a vibrant group that was actively like seeking out knowledge. It was marvelous.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember this site having some really excellent photos. So I would encourage people to look further if they want. It's been years, a few years since I've looked at this before. They go into a lot of detail in here. They bring in some highlights into this area, and they talk about it. If it's this site, but this looks very much to what I was looking at before. This is called Mount Musa here. This is like I think a traditional site, but over here, Al-Laws, this is where Mount Sinai is in Arabia. There's some excellent videos on that too. So when we do get this up to YouTube, I will try to put a link in here with the people, some of the people who have gone to Al-Laws and show Mount Sinai, what they've discovered there. Many miracles, so amazing.
Darla?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to, I don't know how much more you've got going on here, but I wanted to talk to you about something that occurred. I think it was before you came into the room, in regards to that page on Facebook, Restoring the Mazzaroth.
Oh, yeah. Can you share anything on that? I don't have anything else for today.
What I did was I mentioned it in our Discord water cooler, and Terri said, why don't you present? But I don't know, I don't know and understand the information that well. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just go to the source. So I messaged him and talked to him about maybe being a guest on our YouTube channel. So he sent me back a message and told me that he's preparing for his Passover tonight. And he's not very well spoken, just like Moshe. And he's more of a hide behind the scenes type of guy, but he's going to pray about it.
Okay.
So do you want me to maybe share the slides in the meantime?
Really
Is he one of your contacts?
I don't know. Who is it? I don't know who it is.
His Facebook page is called Restoring the Mazzaroth. So the page is,
maybe.
He just shared like 13 slides or something like that, showing the crucifixion in like the stars.
You want to share your slides?
Yeah, I can do that right now. Actually, I did it before you came on. I was showing Terri. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was in agreement with her even before I saw her comment.
Okay, so do you want me to do that now then?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is his page. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we see.
Okay. So here it is here, the crucifixion portrayed in the heavens. There are 3 constellations that depict the crucifixion. So this has 33 slides.
Is there a way to bring them up one by one so we could see them a little bit more detail?
Yep, that's what I'm trying to do right now. So this is the first one. It's just, that's why I'm saying, like, to have the person that's doing this would be like, I wouldn't know how to explain what all of this is, right?
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating, that and he's always posting really good information too. So let's see here. I'll go to the comments. There we go. So I'll just go through the slides like this. So it's this one. So then it goes through the names: Latin, Sumerian, Arabic, Greek.
That's very helpful. I've heard that the stars of names have been preserved in the Arabic.
Right, yeah.
There's also
okay, so then there's more of an explanation here. The equestrian chief, pike Roman centurion that oppressed, trampled, pierced, and executed unjustly the sacrificial victim onto the cross, and was present as a sworn juror to make a settling judgment. So So I guess this shows in the stars too of what was occurring at the time. Like, look at that, the star alignment above that cross picture.
Wow.
But see, like I said, I don't know I would like to learn more about it. That's why I thought it'd be great to have him come on. So it looks like there's very much detail, history. It says the centurion had just stabbed Jesus with the spear. The 3 people who had been crucified are dead. The crowds have left, and only the centurion, Saint John, and the Virgin Mother Mary Magdalene remain. This is one of 11 scenes from the Passion that Sadler engraved after drawings by Martin de Vos, published in 1582. So it shows that it looks like the star alignment at that time was also aligning up with what was taking place. And that's what his gift is from YaHuWaH, is reading the Mazzaroth.
Yeah, for sure.
Slide 7, slide 8, slide 9. So I can share them in our group, and then, hopefully maybe we can pray about him finding the courage and YaHuWaH giving him the go ahead to come on and teach us a little bit more.
Yeah. And at any rate, anybody on Facebook can likely get to these Restoring the Mazzaroth.
Yeah, Terri. Yeah, Terri was trying to find his page and she couldn't seem to get it, but Bonnie could maybe try. You don't have him? He's not one of your contacts?
Maybe. I'm trying to rub 2 brain cells together at the hot minute.
Yeah.
Maybe, but he's not on my radar at the hot minute. I do have a friend or two that, Facebook friends that are studied the Mazzaroth. I noticed you shared some of Carrie Alexander's songs recently. I love his presentation on the Mazzaroth as well, and he did a couple, as far as I know, and I would love to see.
Oh, and then here's this one too that he did as well. Aries, the Passover sacrificial lamb. Aries portrays the sacrificial lamb of Yahweh's Pesach, which prophesied Yeshua's first coming as the suffering lamb willingly laid down his life for us. So that's in there as well. So,
I think it's interesting too. I think over at worldslastchance.com, where they talk about how to know when the beginning of the year is. I think it's in when I search that, it comes up. I'll probably put this in a description as well. They talk about, I think it's every 2,000 years, like the cosmic calendar shifts out of the beginning of the year when the spring equinox is, that shifts from the ram. It shifted to Pisces, which is a sign of the 2 fish, which is a sign of the 2 houses of Israel. So we went from the ram to the 2 houses. I think that's pretty cool.
And I just posted a video too on oh gosh, what's his name? Okay, he's one of those, Timothy Alberino. And he was talking about the timeline that is written about the age of Aquarius, when we go from the age of I forget what one is before that, into the age of Aquarius. That's when a timeline changes again. So it was pretty interesting listening to him. I posted that one, I guess, in current events.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember what the name of the actual channel was that I posted it from, because it's not him per se, it's somebody else's YouTube page, but I'll look for it. And that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah. Well, we definitely are living in interesting times, and we've just started a brand new year, and we're now in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And amazing to think about these Hebrews that this night, and this is why when I and just one more thing I'm going to bring up, and that is, it's the last verse, I think. No, it wasn't the last. It was close to the last. Exodus 12. Like I said, I felt like there's actually 2 nights of remembrance. I need to look at it in my other one, my Hebrew English version, because I know right where it is on the page. I won't get lost. 12. Here we go. So in verse 47, 42, it is a night to be observed unto YaHuWaH for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. This night is unto YaHuWaH to be observed by all the children of Yasharel throughout their generations. And then the verse right before it, and it came to be at the end of the 430 years on that same day, it came to be that all the divisions of YaHuWaH went out from the land of Mizraim. Those 2 verses together seem to indicate to me personally, my personal feeling about it is that not only are we to keep the Passover night, but we are also to observe tonight, the 15th. And this 430 years to the exact same day, this is when YaHuWaH put Abraham to sleep. It was even Abram at that time. Put him to sleep, and that covenant, the cutting of the covenant, happened then. That was the 430 years. He talks about it in Genesis 15. 430 years. So now I'm going back a whole book, and he says, I think he says 430 years. Verse 14, I'm in Genesis 15, verse 14. But the nation whom they serve, I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now, as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace. You are to be buried at a Tob old age. Then in the 4th generation, they shall return here, for the wickedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to be when the sun went down and it was dark, that see a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. On the same day, YaHuWaH made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river Perath, which is Euphrates, with the Cani and the Kenazi and the Kadmoni and the Hitti and the Perizim and the Raphaim and the Amorim and the Kenanim and the Girgashim and the Yebusim. I think it says, I thought it said 430 here, but okay. The verse before says, verse 13, and he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So that one says 400 years, but the 400 years doesn't start until Isaac is born, and that is over in like verse chapter 18, I think. Anyway, I can't make sense of my notes today too much, but I know that the math adds up there between the time that Isaac was born, that it was like 400 years from Isaac, but this promise was made in 430 years. Very cool stuff.
It's amazing how every little thing is a clock with YaHuWaH, that everything has to play out in its own timing and be fulfilled. Every word, every jot, every tittle.
Yeah. And he told him that time, 430 years earlier, they're going to come out with great possessions. They're going to serve, and then they're going to come out with great possessions.
And we're told too, aren't we, that we're going to watch the destruction of the evil ones, right?
We can imagine that when the fullness of the evil is come, we're coming out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the Egyptians' evil that was full. It was the fullness of the evil, the Canaanites' evil, where they were going to. That evil had to be filled up. For whatever that's worth. Does anybody have any closing?
And that's probably the same. That's probably for the same for today too, because
yeah,
let's face it, they're still amongst us, right?
So much evil. I just think of Ezekiel 9, the people that mourn and grieve over the evil being done. Those are the ones that are marked by YaHuWaH for protection.
Mm-hmm. So what's everybody going to do tonight for observing Feast of Unleavened Bread? That's what today is, correct? It's a high Shabbat, so it's also the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right?
Yeah, so basically Feast of Unleavened Bread starts last night. So we're on Unleavened Bread now for 7 nights and 6 days. And
but we observe it as a feast day today though too, right? I'm gonna make some more matzah. I know that. We ate it all. It was so good.
Right, I know. It's so delicious. I used Tez's recipe and added honey, so it was sweet.
I think that's what I'll do is put some honey in it. I heard you mention that and I thought, ooh, that would be good.
And then I had to add more flour because it did make it obviously, really moist. The more honey you put in, the more moist it's going to be. It was so
delicious. Mine's a gluten-free recipe. I posted it actually. Is that a problem, me posting all those songs in Discord? Is anybody bothered by that?
No, that's why we have
took up a lot of space.
Oh no. I mean, if it's not a problem for Discord, it's not a problem for us.
Okay.
Let's see. So let's see what it says, because we're going to be over. Let's just go over to Leviticus 23 real quick, because these are the feast times we're in. And just see what YaHuWaH says. I was going to stay in Chrome, I think. There we go. Leviticus 23. And of course, Exodus 12 just told us this starts on the night of the 14th. But we're going to go in through just kind of now we're going to talk about it starting the day. So these are the appointed times of YaHuWaH set apart gatherings, which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. Proclaim them. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, this was yesterday, between the evenings is the Passover to YaHuWaH. And on the 15th day of this month is the festival of unleavened bread to YaHuWaH. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. So we started last night on the 14th, according to Exodus 12. And now we got another 7 days to go. When we get to that night of that 7th day coming up, we'll be off of this. And I wait till dark. On the first day, you have a set apart gathering. You do no servile work. This is today. This is the first day of this feast. It's the 7th day of the week, but it is the first day of the whole day, right? We started last night. Like, you don't have Passover meal and then you've got leaven there at night and then you throw it out in the morning. That's not how it works. You just get rid of it before the sun goes down. And you shall bring an offering made by fire to YaHuWaH for 7 days. So this is like a barbecue. On the 7th day is a set apart gathering. You do no servile work. And YaHuWaH spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Yisrael, and you shall say to them, when you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. So we have to take some context here. We're not in the land. Most of us are not growing barley. And so what I do is I just wave this before YaHuWaH, the words. I wave the words before him because I'm not growing barley on my property. I'm not in the land. So I just try to observe and participate with YaHuWaH. And he shall wave the sheep before YaHuWaH for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Shabbat, that's day 16, the priest waves it. And on that day, when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as a burnt offering to YaHuWaH. And its grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to YaHuWaH, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering, 1/4 of a hin of wine. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to YaHuWaH, to Elohim, a law forever throughout your generations and in all your dwellings. And from the morrow after the Shabbat, again the 16th, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths. Okay. This ends up being 52 days. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to YaHuWaH. Bring from your dwellings for a wave of offering 2 loaves of bread of 2/10 of ephah of fine flour. They are baked with leaven. First fruits to YaHuWaH. So this is a summer appointed time. It is approximately the very end of the 4th month, it's the end of the 4th month. It's either the 28th or the 29th day of the 4th month. So the 29th being the last Shabbat of the month, or the 28th being the day just before. So these are the feasts we have to reckon with between now and the fall feast in the 7th month.
And clearly they're going to be off the count. First of all, because they do the 7 Shabbats and then start the next day as the count, but we add another 50 days from that day, correct?
Yeah, 7 Shabbats. It's going to include 7 days, 7 weeks of 7 days, plus it includes the new moon days in between the 1st and
right.
2nd. Yeah.
And they're not even going to start doing their counting until it'll be Sunday, because they'll do it the day after they consider their Shabbat to be Saturday. So then the first fruits to them will be the first after the first Sabbath, post Passover is first fruits. So their first fruits will be Sunday, and that's when they'll start their count, I guess.
And by them and they, you mean the Jews keeping or those
Shavuot, yeah, like Messianics or whatever. Judah doesn't keep Shavuot, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They don't keep first fruits, I don't think.
Well, yeah, from what Monty said, it's kind of that it gets overlooked. But yeah, they do a count, but they count 7 Sabbaths, but their Sabbath is Saturday. So it's always going to be off, even just for that alone. Yeah.
I mean, there are times when YaHuWaH's calendar lines up with the Gregorian calendar, but or let's say the Gregorian calendar lines up with YaHuWaH's calendar. There are times it just accidentally falls in there, but it's never called Saturday, of course.
Yeah. My friends called last night. They've reconnected with a Messianic group that they like to fellowship with, because they'll quite often get in speakers and stuff, but they heavily rely. I've shared their emails once in a while with some things. There are some good teachings there, but they heavily rely on Judah. And she was saying that if the weather was okay, they were going to go to the Passover tonight. And she was saying, because I told her ours was last night. She said, I was so excited. I thought all of the calendars were lining up this year. Everything looked like it was right on. I said, no, not with ours, because we go by the 14th, not the 15th.
Yeah, at this minute I can't recall where the Shabbat line was this month. Is Judah and Israel past us, Bonnie?
It was Oman, I thought.
It was what?
Oman.
Yeah.
Which is Middle East, isn't it?
So it started there? Yeah, I could go over and look it up. Yeah, I don't know. I thought here I am trying to go into Safari again. I'm trying to stay on Safari today. Let's see. June.
So, Darla, can I just ask you, when you say that you wave the words at YaHuWaH for the wave offering, is that like reading the scriptures that have all to do with first fruits?
So from my understanding, it's so weird here. Let me share this. I'll get back to that in just 1 second. Oh, maybe Bonnie's sharing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
From my but it doesn't even look like anybody ever saw it in Israel. Like, it wasn't reported. Is that right? Is that what I'm looking at there, Bonnie?
It wasn't reported in Israel till
Yeah, it wasn't.
third.
So weird. That's weird in and of itself.
Nigeria. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia and Oman. So you've got Middle East here, but no Jerusalem.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, Israel based on Wednesday.
So yeah, they should have had it Wednesday too. All right. Okay, so back to the question. My understanding, Teza, is that if I don't have something in scripture, or I don't know how to do it, I'll just wave the words. So I don't just read them, but I actually do the waving.
Okay. Like to the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, above and below. Is that what you're basically saying?
I
No?
don't. Yeah, I'm waving it. I don't. At the hot minute, is that in scripture to wave it in all those different directions? Or
Well, their words are in scripture, and I read Psalm 113. Praise,
Yeah, I
praise
would.
YaHuWaH. Praise, O servant of YaHuWaH. Praise the name of YaHuWaH. Baruch the name of YaHuWaH now and forever. From the rising of the sun to the going down of his name, YaHuWaH is to be praised. YaHuWaH is on high above the nations. He esteems above the heavens. Who is like YaHuWaH, our Elohim, who is enthroned on high? He looks down on the heavens and the earth. He raises the poor out of the dust and lifts the needy from the dunghill, to make him sit with the nobles of his people, causing the barren to dwell in the house, rejoicing mothers of children. Praise YaHuWaH.
So what
That was
psalm
just
that?
113.
Yeah.
And so you've got Proverbs 3, 9, and 10. They talk about giving of a fruit. They talk about the first fruits offering.
Which scripture was that, Teza?
Proverbs 3, 9, and 10.
Okay, let's look at it real quick. I usually go to Safari, but I decided to do Chrome today.
Because you got Nehemiah 13:31. That one, you remember it because it's 13:31. It's 1331.
Esteem YaHuWaH with your tob things, and with the first fruits of all your increase. Then your storehouses shall be filled with plenty, and your vats overflow with new wine. Hallelujah. I mean, is that not worth a wave?
Yes.
Of first fruits? And context again. If your first fruits are macadamia nuts, I mean, thank him for it.
Yes. Well, I ended up when I was doing a study on it, because first fruits, it is everyone knows of it, but they sort of overlook it.
Guys, remember the fruit of our lips also, our praise. So that's what does us to me. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we hear
can
you.
Just hear you, Sherry. Shabbat Shalom, sister.
Shabbat Shalom.
When you think about, you had Cain and Abel. Abel turned around and gave the best of his flocks, the unblemished lambs, the first of the lambs of his flocks, goats, whatever, to YaHuWaH, where Cain waited until he sort of had enough. He didn't give the first of it. That goes right back to the garden.
Yeah, is that from Jasher? I don't remember that being in the scripture, like why one was accepted and one was not. Or is it in Genesis?
It's in Genesis.
Okay.
That's my understanding of it.
It's just great to review it and all that.
I follow the Fit Farmer. My boys, I had to call help. I follow the Fit Farmer on YouTube. It's he has a homestead. He's also Hebrew, and everything he grows, the first picking, first time he picks something, he gives that to the poor, and he says everything he grows, he wants to give the first fruits to the Father.
Yeah.
So therefore, he gives it to the poor. I just think that's really awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. So.
Okay, so Genesis 4 verse 4, and Hebel also brought of the first fruit of his flock and of their fat. Oh, and then so in verse 3 it says, and it came to be in the course of time. That must be what you're speaking about. In the course of time.
And brought the offering of the fruit.
Yeah.
Of the ground. Yeah, right.
So it wasn't that one was bringing animals and one was bringing the fruit of the ground. It was that one of them was kind of gathering them up, and here's some.
Yeah, it was Abel he'd actually brought the first of his flocks, because even though that they were the first, he didn't know whether they would end up becoming mums and etc. or dads, whatever. But he bought the first lots because he trusted in YaHuWaH that he deserved the best of the land, best of everything, because everything is YaHuWah's, and he will provide.
Yeah.
Where Cain turned around and just thought, well, I'll just give you what I've got. I'm going to give it to you, but I'll give it to you when I've got it. That was my understanding of it.
Got it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And when you think about Abraham, for instance, with Isaac, even though he had Ishmael, who was his firstborn, it wasn't of Sarah. He still gave his firstborn. That's the pattern. YaHuWaH gave his only begotten son. It's that pattern that's there. Can you guys see that, or am I just seeing into things?
No, I think it's amazing. You're seeing is right, I think. I think it's, it's insightful, and it's just careful reading, which is important. I thought maybe
it was like when Leah was just saying, everything's there. And he's opening our eyes to all of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got lawnmower people here.
Oh, that's okay. I thought maybe we don't know exactly all that there is to know about offering everything to YaHuWaH according to the sacrifices. The priests were lost. The YaHuWaH, we are known as our sin sacrifice. There were other sacrifices, and Isaiah 66 seems to indicate that there will be more sacrifices in the future. But I thought I would just read this. And since we don't know how to keep them all perfectly, that's what I do, is I try to participate as best I have the understanding, knowing that I don't have the full understanding at this time. And YaHuWaH knows we don't have the full understanding. We're not in the land. We are scattered, the diaspora, And so he is bringing us that back, and he will rectify all things to his purpose and plan. This says, I'm just starting in verse 16 of Isaiah 66. For by fire and by his word YaHuWaH shall judge all flesh, and the slain of YaHuWaH shall be many. Those who set themselves apart and cleanse themselves at the gardens after one in the midst, eating flesh of pigs, and the abomination and the mouse are snatched away together, declares YaHuWaH. And I, because of their works and their imaginations, am coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my esteem. And I shall set a sign among them, and shall send some of those who escape to the nations, Tarshish and Pul and Lud, who draw the bow, and Tubal and Yawan. That Yawan is Greece. The coastlands afar off, who have not heard my report nor seen my esteem, and they shall declare my esteem among the Gentiles. And they shall bring all your brothers as an offering to YaHuWaH out of all the Gentiles, on horses and in chariots and in litters, on mules and on camels. I didn't see anything about in Lexuses and Teslas. To my set apart mountain, Jerusalem, declares YaHuWaH, as the children of Yasharel bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of YaHuWaH. And from them too I shall take for priest for Luim, declares YaHuWaH. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares YaHuWaH, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from new moon to new moon, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares YaHuWaH. And they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, and their fire not be quenched, and they shall be repulsive to all flesh. That is how the book of Isaiah ends. Anything else, y'all? Anything anybody wants to say? Or
I just want to say I loved Shabbat today.
That's
awesome. A perfect Shabbat.
Beautiful.
It has been.
And I loved hearing the Kolbrin. What is it? The Kolbrin Bible?
That was great.
Yeah, I think I'm going to order one of them, because just having that witness from the other side is just, it's good for refuting things.
Leah, I put a
link?
PDF in resources.
Okay, thanks, sister.
So wonderful.
But it's also lovely to have the hard copy.
Yes, I would think so. Bonnie, you're looking very refreshed, surprisingly.
Hey? What? Oh, exhausted. I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, I feel it. All right, y'all. Get some rest, get some sleep.
Shabbat shalom, sisters.
Shabbat shalom, sisters.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
And we'll see you on the other side.
May this video enrich your love in and understanding of our Abba YaHuWaH and His Word. Much has been hidden. Together let's seek the restoration of all truth. A Light Unto the Gentiles channel invites you to join the Hebrew Restoration and Code Searching team. Please email us at alightuntothe@gmail.com to let us know of your interest. Looking for fellowship? We invite you to join our Facebook group, Code Searching Hebrews. Love, truth, and revelation are vital in these last days. The Hebrew Restoration and Code Searching Ministries, through A Light Unto the Gentiles, serves YaHuWaH and the sheep from our Father's pasture. Please prayerfully consider a monthly donation to Restoration Farms Incorporated. Links are provided for you below in the description.